here today to talk a little bit about the different methods for cutting applique fabric. We've gotten some emails recently, as well as I've seen some stuff on social media. Questions like, I have a cutter, is it compatible with Design Shop? Answer is definitely yes. So today we'll cover the different methods for cutting out applique, whether you have a cutter or you don't. If you want to find out more about the digitizing process of applique, all the details, properties, we have help for you for that. We have all sorts of videos, so you just fire up your browser and go to melco-service.com, and on that site we have an icon right here, videos. So once I click on that, it's split into different categories. If I want to understand start to finish how the tool works or how to digitize applique without the tool, we have all the educational and training videos here for Design Shop 10 and 11. For the live presentations where we cover advanced stuff, freestanding patches, how to do split front appliques, all sorts of stuff like that, those are all going to be under the live episodes. So I click on live episodes, it tells you here, Control F will do search. So Control F, and I just type in applique, and there are 4 separate videos on different forms of applique. First one is creating custom patches. Also notice you can watch on either Facebook or YouTube depending on your preference. The next one after that is applique start to finish, the whole entire process. Here's another one on applique. Here's one on split fronts if you want to know how to do baseball jerseys where they overlap and have to line up perfectly. We have a whole session on that. And one more Josh did on freestanding patches and how to adhere them actually to hats. So the patches are appliqued because they're freestanding. So plenty of help on all this stuff. Okay, let's dive right in. So here are 2 of the same designs basically. The right one here was made manually with a walk stitch as the locator and then single lines to do the tack down and the top stitching. And this one over here was done with our applique tool. The more advanced level of Design Shop has the applique tool. It's really simple. You basically go around the shape once and all the elements are automatically digitized and connected. So if you make a change in the outline of one, they all change. So really nice and fast. But there's a lot of times, even if you have the tool, where you're doing very intricate appliques where 3 or 4 pieces all come together of applique and they have different outlines and stuff. It's just better to make it with the old-fashioned method than it is to do it with the applique tool. But we're going to cover them both. Okay, so easiest I guess is I'm going to make one and I don't want to make a pattern. So what you do is you hoop your garment, sweatshirt, whatever in a hoop, put the hoop in the machine, take your applique fabric, cut it larger than the finished size, a little spray adhesive, put it down on top of the garment. The way that the designs are set up is the first thing it does is that locator. That tacks the material to the garment itself. Then you cut around the outside of it really close with applique scissors, which behave differently than regular scissors. They're offset, so you don't nick the fabric as easy, which would ruin the garment. So sew it down, cut close to the edge. Then after that, it will sew down the tackle twill, which is what we call the tack down stitch. And then it will sew the top stitching, which is a full satin stitch. Okay, so that's the way to do one. Now let's say I don't have a cutter and I need to make 50 of these. Well, it's probably going to be worth making a pattern if that's the case. So real simple. All I have to do is I select the locator stitch, right? This tells me where to put the cutout fabric on the garment. If I'm making a whole bunch of them. So I highlight that, I will take and copy it to a new window, copy it to the clipboard, fire up a new window and paste it. Okay, so from here, this is all I need to make the pattern from. So if I didn't have a cutter, all I have to do is go up to print. Our new print app in V11 is really sweet. And just make sure that actual size here is selected. And you can see that on page 2, I will get a printout of the 100% actual size of the applique fabric. So I would print that, and then I would cut it out, and I could use that to trace onto my fabric to cut them out. Make sure you cut on the inside of the line, or your pattern keeps growing, because as you cut it on the outside of the line, then you transfer that to, let's say, a more stable material. We used to use manila file folder material. You could use non-corrugated cardboard. It's just something that's going to hold up better as you trace, volumes of this stuff. And then when you take the pattern and you put it on the fabric and you trace it, if you cut on the outside of that, all of a sudden now your pattern is growing and it doesn't fit underneath where it's supposed to. So slightly on the inside of the lines when you cut out the patterns. Also, we put up on them because when I had a shop in Boulder, sure enough, we cut 50 of them, or 75 maybe, on the wrong side. It was a non-symmetrical pattern, so we had to cut them again. So up is always a good tip. Okay, so that's the way to make the pattern. Then you would trace the pattern onto the fabric and cut them out that way. Okay, let's go back to our design. Okay, so if I have the applique tool, let me just show you that right here. This is all done, like I said, with one line, does everything and gives you a lot of flexibility with it. If I have digitized the applique using the applique tool, I still need to get a pattern of this made. So all we have to do in that case is select the applique element, File, Save Applique Outline, pick your format of, whatever you want, wherever you want to put it, and let me see, go here, I'll just call it Heart Locator. Okay. And then I just open that file. And then I would do file print for this also. Same deal. So that's the way to make a pattern through your printer if you don't have a cutter, whether you use the applique tool or if you don't. Alrighty. So the next the next step is if you have a cutter. So what kinds of cutters are there? There's vinyl cutters, there's fabric cutters, and there's also laser cutters. Laser cutters are, the best, but they're also very expensive, $8,000 to $12,000. They cauterize the edge, which seals it, which is really nice. You can also do all sorts of cool stuff like double layers, which is called a kiss cut of applique. I have a picture here to show you. Right here, where you've got the blue is the stitching, but the red and the white are actually fabric on top of each other. The laser can pulse just enough electricity through it to cut the top layer of fabric without touching the one below it. So really pretty cool stuff if you have a laser cutter. Fabric cutters, vinyl cutters are terrific for cutting different types of fabric. The most common is a sports twill. It's actually a nylon twill fabric. You can buy it on rolls. And it's self-adhesive as well as it has hot melt glue on the back side, and the cutters just go to cutting out this stuff like it's crazy. Okay, also be aware, however you do the applique pattern making, sometimes you're going to have to modify the pattern. You're like, hey, it's lining exactly like it's supposed to be on the screen, but it suffers fabric movement just like embroidery does. And so the direction you go or how you stitch it down and what goes over it will sometimes make different parts hang out that you know, like, why is this happening? Just know it's not you. It happens to all of them, especially the more intricate shapes. And shaving a little bit off of the fabric here, or off the pattern here, there is, you know, going to help, and it's going to work every time. So that's kind of a common thing like that. Okay, so now we'll go back to this, and let's say that I don't have the applique tool, or I didn't use it, but I do have a cutter. All I have to do in this case, just like I did before, highlight the locator or the walk stitch. Now, with cutters, you need to make sure that it's a closed element. So if I zoom into this, you can see right here that the start is right here and the stop is right here. So there's a little distance between the two. Design Shop connects them up, but depending on certain cutters, it might leave a little void here, which you know, is kind of just a nag more than anything, because you go to pull off the fabric from the release paper and there's a little area that gets it stuck. So just make sure that your start and your stop of the locators line up. If you use the applique tool, they always are closed shapes. So no problem there, but just make sure these two line up. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, first I'm going to turn on the point list, which gives me these triangles so I can get more detail. These are the locations and the types of straights and curves of all the nodes I put in for this locator stitch. So obviously the first and the last are what we're interested in. First one is 580 in X, 360 in Y. If I go down to the last one, you'll see that it's not the same. Double click brings up properties. I can just change the coordinates. So for this one, I want to go 580, and it's 366 needs to be 360. When I hit OK, boom, it moved over. Now it's perfectly closed shape, so you're not going to get any tug-of-wars going on with your fabric. Okay, so what I do is highlight the closed element, and I will copy it to the clipboard, and I will open up a new window, and I will paste it in there. I like to center them. Now, what you need to do at this point is go to your cutter and find out what format does it read. Very common is BMP, JPEG, SVG is probably the lion's share. EPS is very common also. Or Melco also sells the Roland line of cutters and printers and all that. All we have to do in that case is I just highlight this element, I copy it to the clipboard, I switch over to Cut Studio as their program for cutting that goes with their cutters. I paste it and it's right there. I duplicate, make my rows of how many you know, copies I want, and hit start. So we don't even have to save in that situation, but you'll find a format. Some of them even read DSTs, which is an expanded embroidery format. So you just send it the locator stitches and it'll cut from there. So you'll find a format that works. Like I say, SVG is very common, EPS and BMP also, but DST is also in the list there. All right, so for this, I copied it to a new window, and I would go File, Save As, and then I would just pick the format that my cutter reads. SVG is here, JPEG, bitmap is right here. I can save it as DST if that's what it goes by, or EPS, which is right down here. So you'll find the format that that your cutter uses, and just save the locator stitch in that format and open it in your cutter software and proceed from there. All right, Now, let's say that I have the applique tool that I use to make the element. How do I get this to my cutter? You probably already figured this out from previous here. File, Save Applique Outline. And then I just would pick the format, just like I showed you, of what you'd want for that, SVG or whatever. And I like to keep all the files together, so you have your digitized file, you also have your cut file from here, and out of your cutting software, it's usually good to save the repeated pattern for the reorder. They come back, you just load the cut file to your cutter, load the fabric, and hit start. Okay, so that's the way to save if you're using the applique element and you just want to save the locator stitch for your cutter. Also, I showed you how to do it if you don't do the applique tool. So very, very simple, really. Kind of cool, some different things of thinking outside the box. We did this one here is a fire logo, you know, very big on the back of a Carhartt jacket. This has a lot of appliques in it, so a trick that I do is we colorize the locator stitch, something we would, you know, not commonly use, fluorescent here. And so you can see that we've got locator for the center clover logo. I'm not sure what the actual fire name is for it. I've done zillions of them. But then also we have all the locators for the word rescue, and then again for the word fire. This twill is available from different companies. Twill USA is a great company. Also Stalls has it. You buy it on rolls. Everything is all put together. Like I said, it's got the glue for sticking it to the garment, as well as the hot melt glue. When you're all finished, you want to put it in a heat press or an iron to secure it to the garment so it doesn't pucker after you wash it. You know, 15 colors is pretty cool. The thing is, what if you have special Pantone colors for colleges or stuff like that? You can get a dye sublimate machine, and so we buy the twill white, and then we'll dye sublimate it whatever color we need to. This opens you up to the whole world of craziness, like we did we did this logo here, where we actually dye sublimated a fire type pattern that had that the metal plate, you know, with the X's that are crossed like you see on bumpers of fire trucks and all that. We did all that for the dye sublimate on this one. Came out really, really cool. There was another one we did, split front jerseys. And so for this one, we did actually, this is a kiss cut. So we did white first, and then we went on top of it with red. For the red, we did a starburst pattern that shoots out from all different directions. So you can see this at the trade shows. It's the current garment that everybody is wearing at Melco that's at the trade show booths. And we did the front and the back and both arms and everything. So super cool, all the options you could have. You could do gradients. The sky's the limit. There's just absolutely no end to it. So hopefully you take advantage of some of that. Dye sub machines are not that expensive. Also, some cool fabrics. Wow, this is one of our customers, West Broad Apparel. This is curtails to fire departments and all that. And look at that. This is actually fire hose that's appliqued on a freestanding patch, then heat applied right to the hat. So crazy kind of fabrics are available to you. We used to use Angora fur, which is like a teddy bear fur, and do mascots like up in Boulder is the Colorado University CU. University of Colorado. Ralphie is their mascot, who's a buffalo, and we did Angora fur applique sweatshirts for that for little kids. we couldn't keep them in stock. They sold so well. So all sorts of cool textures and everything for applique. Hopefully you understand now exactly what you need to do to take this applique locator stitch and get it to your cutter. Whether you or if you don't have a cutter, how you can cut them out using patterns or whatnot, like that. Hopefully you got what you needed out of this one, and happy cutting, and we will talk to you next time.